Hidden for millennia, the Lost Earth Archive holds the secrets of a time before history.
All right, we are about to dive into a prehistoric mystery about a giant so bizarre it completely stumped scientists for decades. This is the incredible story of Sivatherium, the giraffe that was a true master of disguise. So just picture this for a second. It's the 1830s, and paleontologists are digging up these absolutely massive bones. They find a skull with, get this, 4 horn-like things on it, some branching out almost like a moose's antlers. The leg bones, they're super thick and stocky, looking a lot more like a rhino than any kind of deer. The whole animal was obviously just enormous. You can imagine them all scratching their heads asking, what on earth is this thing? And the answer for a very long time was they had absolutely no clue. The pieces just didn't add up. It was this weird mashup of features from totally different animals, a real paleontological puzzle. This wasn't some quick, easy discovery. It was the beginning of a long and frankly very confusing scientific quest. Which brings us right to our first chapter, the crazy discovery itself and the seriously epic name this creature got because of all that confusion. Okay, so it all kicks off in the 1830s. We're in the Siwalik Hills of India, where 2 British naturalists, Hugh Falconer and Prabhi Kotley, stumble upon these baffling fossils. Their first guess was that it had to be some kind of connecting link, a bridge between 2 completely separate groups. The ruminants, that's things like deer and cattle, and the pachyderms, which is an old-school term for thick-skinned animals like elephants and rhinos. Given how huge and almost mythical it looked, they gave it a name to match, Sivatherium, which literally means Shiva's beast, named after the powerful Hindu god. How cool is that? So, how did they get from this rhino-elephant-deer hybrid to what it actually was? Well, turns out the answer was sitting right on top of its head the whole time. And that brings us to cracking the giraffe code. The whole mystery came down to one crucial clue: a very specific kind of headgear called ossicones. Now, these aren't horns and they aren't antlers. Ossicones are these permanent bony knobs that are actually part of the skull, and they're covered in skin and fur. This little feature is the unique calling card of the giraffe family, the Giraffidae. And this just perfectly lays out the difference. Horns, like you see on a cow, have that keratin sheath over a bone core. Antlers, like on a deer, are just bone, and they fall off and regrow every single year. But ossicones, they're in a league of their own. Permanent, skin-covered bone. The second scientists realized Sivatherium's horns were actually ossicones, everything just snapped into place. It wasn't a pachyderm, it wasn't a deer, it was, without a doubt, a very, very strange member of the giraffe family. All right, so we figured out it's a giraffid. But honestly, that just makes things even more interesting. What did this giant actually look like? First, let's bust a really persistent myth about its face. So early on, scientists looked at the shape of its skull, specifically this recessed nasal opening, and thought, hey, maybe it had a short, flexible trunk, kind of like a taper. You can even find these old, kind of goofy illustrations of it with one. But fast forward to today, and modern science, using CT scans and more complete skulls, showed the real story. There was solid bone right where the complex air passages for a trunk would need to be. The conclusion was pretty clear. No trunk. It just had a really, really big nose. So with the trunk myth totally busted, we get a much clearer picture of this animal. And you need to forget the image of a tall, slender giraffe. Instead, think of a giant, super muscular okapi. It had a short, incredibly powerful neck built to hold up a massive head. And that head was rocking its signature feature, 4 ossicones. Not 2, like a modern giraffe, but 4. A huge branching pair on top and a smaller, spikier pair right over its eyes. Just wild. Those early estimates, based on those rhino-like bones, claimed it was as big as an elephant. But looks can be pretty deceiving. So just how massive was Shiva's beast? Really? Well, in 2016, a team of researchers built a super detailed 3D model of its entire skeleton to get the most accurate weight estimate possible. The results? An average weight of 1,246 kilograms. That's about 2,750 pounds. This officially makes it one of the largest ruminants that ever lived. This chart really puts that number into perspective. At over 1,200 kilos, Sivatherium was actually heavier than the average male giraffe you'd see today. But it was nowhere near these 6,000 kilograms of an African elephant. So, not quite the elephant-sized monster people first imagined, but definitely a heavyweight champion in its own right. So we know what it was, and we've got a good idea of what it looked like. Now let's actually put this giant back into its world and see what life was like for it during the Ice Age. Sivatherium had a seriously long and successful run. It first shows up in the fossil record around 7 million years ago, and it wasn't just in India. Its fossils have been found all across Africa and South Asia. It was happy in woodlands, happy in savannas, and by looking at its teeth, we know it was a mixed feeder, which means it was super adaptable. It could browse on leaves like a giraffe or graze on grass like a cow. Its last confirmed fossils date to about 1 million years ago. And you've got to remember, it wasn't out there alone. I mean, imagine the scene. Sivatherium is sharing its habitat with other incredible Ice Age megafauna. We're talking about elephant relatives like Stegodon, some of the earliest horses, and of course, terrifying predators like saber-toothed cats. It was truly a world of giants. So the fossil record seems to just stop about 1 million years ago. But that's not quite where the story ends. The final chapter on Sivatherium is basically a prehistoric cold case, full of these tantalizing clues that maybe, just maybe, it survived much longer. Now, the leading theory for why it vanished is climate change. The world started to cool and get a lot drier. This caused the woodlands and mixed environments it loved to shrink, and they were replaced by huge open grasslands. For an animal that relied on woody plants, that would have been a disaster. But then we have this. This is a copper rain ring found in the ancient Sumerian city of Kish. It's dated to just 5,000 years ago, and the animal sculpted on it looks, well, it looks a lot like a Sivatherium. It has that stocky build and what really look like 2 sets of horns. Could ancient Sumerians have actually seen this animal alive? And it doesn't stop there. Over in the Sahara, you can find these ancient rock paintings, some of them around 8,000 years old. They show these strange, big-bodied animals that don't match anything known to be living there at the time, except, just maybe, a certain 4-horned giraffid. This just leaves us with this incredible, mind-bending question. We have art from 2 different ancient cultures that seems to show Sivatherium thousands and thousands of years after its last known fossil. Is it possible that small, isolated populations survived, hidden away, long enough to be seen by early human civilizations? It's a stunning idea, but for now, without any fossil proof, it remains a really captivating mystery. And you know, that mystery brings us to this amazing quote from the anatomist James Murray. It just perfectly captures the entire story of Sivatherium. We started with the foundation of confusing facts, the bones, and we slowly built our understanding over decades. But all that firm knowledge is still surrounded by so much that is uncertain,
we have to turn the
leaving
question
us with a
over
story
to you.
that's part
Do
science
those
and
ancient
part
copper
unsolved
rings
case
and
file,
desert rock paintings
a true
prove
beast of
that the
myth
Shiva's
and
beast
of legend?
walked alongside early humans? Or are we just seeing what we want to see in the art of the past? We want to hear your theories. Did a small population of these giants survive the Ice Age, or is the fossil record the only truth we have? Let us know what you think down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the prehistoric world, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss our next excavation into history. Thanks for watching.
Hidden for millennia, the Lost Earth Archive holds the secrets of a time before history.